And go.
You see them? Ted, can you see the otters?
Like a piñata.
And now, wait, where's the heron? Where is the heron? Oh, I see the heron. I think I see the heron. Where's the heron? Where's the heron?
Hi, welcome to the London Wetland Centre. My name's Magda and I'm here today with Todd and Honey. These are our two Asian small-clawed otters. So otters, they're quite a varied mammal. Todd and Honey are one of 13 species of otter. So these Asian small-clawed, as the name suggests, are found across Southeast Asia. But otters can be found in every single country or continent apart from Antarctica or Australia. They've got a very wide range generally as a mammal. So this ranges from the giant otter, which is 2 meters tall, it's about 6 foot, so actually bigger than me, and you can find those otters in the Amazon. The heaviest otter in the world is the sea otter, and that's at 40 kg, so really heavy there. And the world's smallest otter is the Asian small-clawed. So you can see that here with Todd and Honey. They are no larger really than a domestic cat, but not to be fooled. Honey is 9 and Todd is 5 years old, so they're very much fully grown otters. So with the Asian small-clawed otters, you can see they've got some of their meal in a bowl there. And that's to make sure that they're working a bit for their food. So what they'll do is, as the name suggests, Asian small-clawed, they have very, very tiny claws. They've also lost the webbing on the front of their paws as well. So this means their paws are extremely dexterous and much more hand-like. And they use this to open pockles, to lift rocks, to hunt for food. They're also the most terrestrial otter species. So that means that these guys spend the most of their time on land versus the water. That could also be another reason for their adaptation. They have a very, very varied diet. So as well as fish and mollusks, they'll pretty much take anything they can grab their hands on. That includes invertebrates, amphibians, anything at all. So very varied, and those grabby hands are really, really good. And they've got very sensitive touch pads on the end of their digits. So the otter can see underwater quite well, but as you can appreciate, the water isn't always going to be crystal clear. And when you're hunting, debris is going to get kicked up, and you actually can't rely on that vision at all anymore. So the otters, when you get a look at Todd and Honey's face, they've got really, really long whiskers all over their eyebrows, under their chins, but they also have whiskers under their arms. So these whiskers are highly sensitive, known as vibrissae, and these whiskers can then allow them to target that prey and locate it without the use of vision. So that's an adaptation there that they have for hunting in the water. Also, the otter can smell and taste underwater. So they blow out a little air bubble, suck it straight back in. You can't see this with the human eye, but that's what they do, and that gives them a sense of smell and taste underwater. So again, allowing them to target prey without having to use vision, which is very impressive, I must say. So those are some of the physical features that the otter has, which make them such an amazing apex predator, especially in their wetland environment. So all otter species can be found quite close to water, so whether it's coastal wetlands, large rivers, marshlands, or things like that. If you've got a very healthy wetland system, unless you're in Australia or in Antarctica, you should have some otters. So they're a really amazing indicator species. So apex means top of the food chain, sitting at the very tippy top, nothing bothers to actively hunt you, you hunt everything else. And that's the case for the otter. So the Asian small-clawed, you might think, such a tiny otter, how is it capable of doing this as well like other otters? But these guys have a social attribute that is different to most otters. So a lot of otters are solitary. These otters are very social. So we've just got Todd and Honey in here in this lovely sized enclosure. But when you go to their natural environment, you will find the Asian small-clawed in groups of up to 15 to 20. So that's a really large group. So should any predator come along that might be larger than Todd or Honey, they can band together as a unit with several of them, and you're really not going to be wanting to take on more than one of these guys for sure. They're very fast, very nimble, very amazing at what they do. So you can see Todd swimming around there. He'll give you a good show off of how amazing the Otter's fur coat is. So you'll see water droplets just roll off of him, and that's the first layer, the really long hairs acting as a waterproof coat, getting that water off. When you see him swim under the water, you'll notice bubbles coming off of him when he's under the water, and that's showing you that the insulation layer underneath, which is a very thick white layer of hair, that's showing you that working, and the bubbles are showing you the insulation there working as he swims across. Because otters are semi-aquatic, rely on water and land, but unlike some other mammals that do rely on water, the otter has no blubber whatsoever. So things like seals, dolphins, etc., thick layers of blubber, that's how they get by. But the otter gets by on this absolutely incredible coat. So obviously the sea otter has an extremely luscious coat, but this has also been their downfall. So all otters, apart from one species, are vulnerable to extinction or highly endangered. In fact, the Asian small-clawed otter at the moment, conservation organisations are pushing for them to be moved up from vulnerable to endangered. Now this is because they're going through a lot in their home environment. So I've just talked about how amazing they are at dealing with all the natural threats, but there's one threat they can't keep up with, and that's us. So that's things like pollutants in the water, landing drain for agriculture. So farmers do drain land for agriculture, but they also use a lot of pesticides, and these run off into the water. And remember I said that otters sit at the top? So any pollutants that are accumulating at the bottom here will congregate, and that means that the otter won't be able to eat, they're likely to get poisoned and they need to move on. They're sort of seen as pest species, and recently what's really targeting this otter is the illegal or exotic wildlife trade, and pet trade. So this is done illegally. Obviously people go out, they find cubs. Cubs are much more easier to sell off and hand rear. You wouldn't be able to domesticate a wild otter. We don't attempt to, our otters are very much quite wild, obviously quite used to us. So I've been here 3 months, so Todd and Honey are very much used to me now, but when I first came here, I was just standing with a tub of fish whilst my colleagues are doing the talk who they're already used to. So they're like quite incredible creatures, but they are being targeted for that reason. And they're only estimated at 5,000 in the wild. So when I said Southeast Asia, that's parts of India, China, Thailand, Cambodia, the Philippines. So that's a really big range, and given the sort of size of groups these otters will live in, 5,000 really isn't a lot. But we've done really well here in the UK, so that's all down to everybody's hard work. So thank you all very much. It's really important, but the Eurasian otter has now bounced back quite well. So where it was once near extinct, endangered, recently with a lot of hard work, it's now been found in every county in the UK. So that's scent marks even on the River Thames. So that's something we can all be very proud of. That's something that's come together. You know, populations are still expanding, but it's just the way we consider what we're using and how we're using it. And we've done that here, which is wonderful. So hopefully we can mimic these kind of success stories around the world. And WWT, that's a wildfowl and wetlands track, so we care about everything wetland. And as these guys are definitely the top indicator species, they're very high on our list as well. And so I have Pangasius and smelt in the ball over there. What I've got left with me is the Pangasius, and they prefer the smelt. So you'll see sometimes the otters, they will decline things as well. They have favourites, but I'll put this up in one of their hot boxes and it will be all gone by the time we get to the next feed. So, but yeah, like I said, thank you very much everyone. Thank you for coming to see us today. If you do have any questions about Todd or Honey or anything otter at all, I'm more than happy to answer those questions for you. I'd like to thank you very much. Obviously, we couldn't do any of our work without yourselves. It is our 75th year, so thank you very much for your support. No matter what stage it was, visitor, member, it all counts. So thank you very much again, and do have a wonderful weekend as well. Thank you.
That's really cool. Let's get going.